In the heart of the city, where the streets stretch like veins through the concrete, lives a story that no one dares to tell. A story of lives marked by the weight of centuries, by the struggle for something as simple as the right to be seen, to exist without fear. You can walk through these streets every day, see the cars zoom past, hear the chatter of people, the hum of life. But if you stop, really stop, and listen closely, you can hear something else. The echo of lives never fully lived, the whisper of dreams dashed by unseen hands, the murmur of a people enduring. They call it progress. They say things have changed. But deep beneath the surface, beneath the shiny buildings, beneath the smiles, is the truth that is harder to see. It's in the way the light flickers on certain corners, the way a certain street becomes quieter after dark, the way your heart races when you walk past a police car, wondering if today will be the day when it happens again. But it's not just the fear that lingers. It's the silence that surrounds it. People turn their heads, pretend they don't see, or worse, convince themselves that it doesn't matter. A corner where a child of color is stopped by a cop and asked to show ID is a place that should make the heart tremble. Yet here, it is just another day. A day when the dreams of a child are weighed against the bias of a system that decides who matters and who doesn't. Every generation carries the scars of those who came before, their struggles written not in books but in the skin, in the way the world looks at them. And yet, they carry on, they rise, they fight, and despite the weight of the past, they hope for a future that is different. And yet, they keep walking, one foot in front of the other. They remember, they dream, they push forward with a resilience that the world has tried to break, but cannot, because there is something unshakable in them, something that no matter how many times it's trampled, it rises again. They walk past the places where the echoes of history still haunt, where the sidewalks are lined with the invisible ghosts of those who were denied their humanity, their dignity. The streets seem unchanged, but for those who carry the weight, it is a constant reminder of what remains unspoken, of what remains unfinished. The sidewalks, cracked and worn, hold the stories of those who never made it past the door, of those who fought for the right to walk without looking over their shoulder. Their footsteps are silent now, but the pavement remembers, and still, the city moves, unaware of the stories beneath its surface. But one day, maybe the stories will be told, the voices will rise, and maybe then the streets will finally hear what they have been missing. The ashes of the past will drift away, and the roots beneath the concrete will finally break through to the surface. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the pavement, but the heat lingered, the weight of the day pressing down on everything. In the quiet that followed the chaos of the afternoon, the streets seemed to breathe, slow and deliberate, as if they were gathering the strength for another night. But for those who had seen too much, the night was always a reminder of what lay in the darkness, what could happen when the world wasn't watching. The police sirens in the distance weren't a call for help. They were a reminder that some lives mattered less than others. For Malik, it was the same every day. Walking the streets meant carrying an invisible weight, one that pressed down on his shoulders and clouded his mind. He had grown up with it, learned how to navigate it, how to stay invisible when necessary, how to speak just loud enough to be heard, but never too loud, because that was when the trouble started. He'd heard stories from his uncle about the old days, about how the struggles were different, but the feeling was the same. "The world doesn't change, Malik," his uncle would say. "It just finds new ways to remind us of our place." He'd heard stories from his uncle about the old days, about how the struggles were different, but the feeling was the same. "The world doesn't change, Malik," his uncle would say. "It just finds new ways to remind us of our place." The sound of footsteps echoed behind him, a rhythm that didn't belong to the usual foot traffic. He turned just enough to glance over his shoulder. It was a young woman, dressed in a black hoodie, her hands stuffed into the pockets, walking quickly as though trying to outrun the world itself. They locked eyes for a moment, and in that brief connection, Malik saw something familiar. She was running, too. She was running from the same thing he was, the same invisible weight that pressed down on their lives. "Hey," Malik called out, his voice carrying a mix of curiosity and caution. "You all right?" The woman stopped and turned slowly, her expression guarded. She hesitated for a long moment before answering. "Yeah," she said, her voice tight, as if she was afraid of saying too much. "Just tired." She looked around, as though checking for something, someone, and then started walking again, this time slower, as if she was willing to let the moment linger. Malik matched her pace, not wanting to seem too eager, but also not wanting to let her walk alone. "You ever think it'll change?" Malik asked after a while, his voice quieter now. "Change? Nah." She chuckled bitterly. "The world just keeps spinning. Same story, different day." Her eyes flickered to the sky, as if searching for some answer up there. "I mean, I hope it does, but you can't keep hoping and end up a fool, right?" Malik nodded. He knew the feeling all too well. His father had said something similar before he disappeared. "Don't wait for the world to change," his father had told him. "Make it change." Malik didn't know what to say to that. He wasn't sure if it was a naive dream or a fight worth having. Sometimes it felt like it would all fall apart if he reached for too much. But in the silence that stretched between them, the weight of everything that wasn't being said felt more tangible than any words could convey. "Do you ever get scared?" Malik asked, his voice smaller now, uncertain. The woman glanced at him, her eyes softening for the first time. "Scared?" she repeated, as if the word was too simple for what they were feeling. "Yeah, every day. But what else are we supposed to do? Let fear own us?" "Nah." Malik stopped, standing still for a moment as her words settled in his mind. The weight didn't go away. It never did. But maybe, just maybe, there was a small part of it that they could lift together, just by speaking the truth, by standing side by side in the open air, not letting the world make them invisible. He watched as she walked away, her steps steady and strong, and for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel so alone. The next morning, the city woke up the way it always did, grinding, buzzing, pretending. People poured into buses and trains with headphones in their ears and worries in their pockets. Storefronts opened. Engines coughed to life. And beneath all that noise, beneath the chatter and the traffic and the ticking of clocks, something quiet stirred. Malik stood at the corner where he always waited. Same cracked sidewalk, same rusted streetlight, leaning like it was tired of standing. But today, something felt different. Not because the world had suddenly changed, but because he had. He had seen it in her eyes the night before. The the same fire he had felt burning quietly in himself for years. It wasn't rage exactly. It wasn't fear. It was something older, something deeper, a refusal, a quiet rebellion that said, "I will not vanish. I will not be erased." So he started walking, not to run from something, but toward something. He didn't know exactly what, but he knew it started here, with not hiding anymore, with not letting the silence do the talking. As he passed the library, he saw a notice board and stopped. Taped to it was a flyer for a community meeting, organizing against over-policing in their neighborhood. His hands trembled slightly as he pulled out his phone and took a picture of the flyer. It felt like nothing, but it was something. It was a beginning. Later that day, Malik stood on the same sidewalk where a boy had been handcuffed just for walking home. He remembered the screams, the slam of the door, the way the neighbors watched but said nothing. But now, he wasn't alone. She was there too, the girl from the night before, and others, faces he recognized from the neighborhood, elders, kids, mothers with strollers, a teacher from the local school. They stood silently at first, not sure what to do. But then someone spoke. "I remember when they tore down the old park to build a police substation. Said it was for our safety, but we lost more than trees that day. We lost our gathering place. We lost our space." More voices followed. Stories poured out like water from a broken dam. Decades of pain, of small humiliations, of names forgotten, of knees on necks, of questions like, "Do you live here? And can I see your hands?" They weren't shouting. They weren't burning anything. But they were doing something just as dangerous. They were remembering, and they were refusing to forget. A child sat on the curb, drawing with chalk, red, yellow, and green shapes that turned into fists or hearts and suns. Malik watched her, thinking how even a child knew that color mattered, that symbols meant something, even if they didn't have the words for it yet. The sky darkened again as the sun dipped low, but this time the shadows didn't feel so heavy, not because the weight was gone, but because it was being shared. That night, Malik sat on his rooftop, watching the city lights flicker like stars trying to push through smoke. He thought of his father, his uncle, the people who had marched, knelt, been beaten, buried. He thought of the girl in the hoodie, the child with the chalk, the stories pouring out like blood. And for the first time, he allowed himself to believe in something dangerous. Hope, not the easy kind. Not the kind that waits for someone else to fix it, but the kind that grows stubbornly in broken places, that rises from ashes, that walks on cracked sidewalks and dares to sing anyway. The sidewalks still carried the ashes, but now they also carried seeds,